Hello, welcome to Coach Michael 101, where we listen to music, check out movies, other miscellaneous mayhem, and hopefully we have some fun along the way. Today we're going to check out a video, military video. It's the SAS Special Air Service, which is the special operations, the Tier 1, the elite special operations unit for the UK, versus Delta Force, which is the counterpart for the United States. Which is better? I'm going to go out on a limb, and at the end, they're not going to say which is better. They're probably going to say, "What do you think?" Just because to pick one would totally leave their comment sections in a mess. Um, but so we're going to check out the video. Um, both are elite. I mean, if you talk about any type of special operations, I don't care if it's SAS, Delta Force, um, SEAL Team 6, any of the Israeli or Soviet, or even China has some. And once you start talking about elite groups, these are the guys. These are the military personnel that you keep behind that glass, and in case of emergency, break glass. Well, these are the ones when you break glass, this is what comes out. So these are the tier one top dogs, so to speak. But we're going to check it out. Let it roll.
What might surprise you is that many Special Forces units can trace their roots back to the UK's Special Air Service, or simply SAS. One such unit heavily influenced by the SAS is Delta Force, Tier 1 Special Forces of the US military. This raises the question, how similar are Delta Force and the SAS?
Now, of course, special operations has been around well before that. You could go back to any military unit, through the recorded history, and you have the elite group within that. Certainly the Spartans, the Immortals, right? If you ever saw the 300, there was an elite group for the Persian army. Certainly there were scouts in the American Revolution. My guess is there were scouts and elite members of any battle group, throughout the history of the world. You have the main bunch, and then you have the ones that come out when you break the glass, so to speak. But certainly for the modern era, SAS is the granddaddy.
How are they selected and trained? What type of weapons do they use? And, most importantly, which unit is better? Join us as we explore these two globally respected special operations forces in this ultimate showdown: Special Air Service versus Delta Force. Established in 1941 by British Army officer David Stirling, the SAS originated in North African deserts during World War II. Stirling had a daring vision to outfox Germans in North Africa. He devised a strategy involving small parachute teams to infiltrate enemy territory, collect intelligence, sabotage, and disrupt supply routes. After presenting his bold idea to his high command, the SAS was given the green light. At the beginning, the SAS was called L Detachment, Special Air Service Brigade. But don't let the term brigade fool you. The SAS started with just 5 officers and around 60 soldiers. This was a deception strategy to confuse the enemy into believing there were thousands of SAS troops. During World War II,
So that's kind of like a SEAL Team 6. At first, I think there were just 2 or 3 SEAL teams, and then they made the dev group SEAL Team 6 so that the Soviet Union would think that there was 6 groups of SEALs. It said 1941, so that would be before the war in the Pacific, where because the Marines had a special operations. They had raiders, which were small groups that they would send into the islands to basically scout, reconnaissance, wreak havoc on the enemy. But that would be like probably in the 1943-ish, the Marine Raiders. So
the SAS proved highly effective in Africa, the Mediterranean, Northwest Europe, and notably D-Day. After the Great War, the SAS was disbanded briefly, but was later reformed, paving the way for the modern SAS as we know today. Over the years, the SAS earned a global reputation, taking part in high-stakes missions like the Iranian Embassy siege, Gulf War, and the War on Terror. Their motto, "Who Dares Wins," reflects their fearless spirit and has set a standard for others to follow. Delta Force was formed in 1977 in response to various terrorist incidents. Charlie Beckwith, a Green Beret and Vietnam War veteran, worked with the British Army's...
So 1977, that is after Vietnam. I know Vietnam had the Mac v. SOG. I guess that wasn't a specific unit as it was more so a group of Green Beret / CIA. But those dudes were freaking monsters. Those guys, if you ever want to check something out, check out Billy Waugh. I believe it's Waugh. Check out Billy Waugh. He's the real deal. He was a Green Beret and a spy for the CIA all up into his 70s. He is a badass. But Mac v. SOG, so I guess that's not considered special operations in the same sense.
22nd Special Air Service during the Malayan Emergency. Beckwith believed the U.S. Army lacked a dedicated unit for direct action and counterterrorism, unlike the U.S. Army Special Forces, which mainly trained and assisted local fighters. Beckwith had a vision of creating small teams that could adapt and work on their own for special missions. He shared his idea with his superiors, but they were reluctant to make any changes. Finally, in the mid-1970s, as the threat of terrorism grew, the Pentagon and Army appointed Beckwith to form the unit. On November 19, 1977, Beckwith and Colonel Thomas Henry officially formed Delta Force. They selected the initial members from volunteers and them through rigorous training to assess their physical fitness, endurance, and mental toughness. It took almost 18 months to finish the training course. By the autumn of 1979, Delta Force had become mission-ready. The UK Special Forces don't recruit from the general public. They accept applications from UK Armed Forces. However, historically, most of the candidates comes from the Royal Marines or Parachute Regiment. In October 2018, they opened SAS recruitment to women. The selection process takes place twice a year. Typically, only a small fraction, around 10% of candidates successfully pass it. The initial phase lasts for 4 weeks in the Brecon Beacons, with around 200 candidates. They kick things off with a fitness test, like 50 sit-ups, 60 push-ups, and a 1.5-mile run. Then, to march 8 miles in 2 hours, carrying a 25-pound load. By the end of this phase, they got to run 4 miles in under half an hour and swim 2 miles in an hour and a half. In 2015, a young recruit died during the exercise just a quarter mile from the end at a location known as VW Valley. 2 other soldiers also died that day, leading to an inquiry. It became even more challenging with the grand finale, a grueling endurance test that requires them to march 40 miles with full gear and conquer the Penny Fan Mountain within 20 hours. Next.
So that's military personnel train hard, and in order to perform in high risk situations, they have to train high risk, and that's part of where my job comes in. Is I help train them so that they were finding that military personnel were getting injured more often in training than they were in actual field events. So my job is to train military personnel, and so they are prepared to do their jobs. But it is an unfortunate part of the business. I always, because I worked in professional sports, and I was always asked, kind of what's the difference? And there's a lot of similarities. There are some major differences. The biggest one is, what is a bad day? A bad day for an athlete is a torn Achilles, a torn ACL. They're out for 7 months to a year. Bad day in special operations is 7 killed. And that is a big difference. It is a much larger risk. It is, the stakes are much higher.
They jet to places like Belize, Brunei, or Malaysia for jungle training, where they learn navigation, patrol, and survive in the wild. Once back in the UK, it's time to study battle plans, foreign weapons, and go through combat survival drills. The whole thing wraps up with a week of escape and evasion training. The candidates are split into teams, given a tin can of survival gear, and dressed in old-school World War II uniforms. Their mission? Reach a specific spot by sunrise. The final test, known as Resistance to Interrogation, focuses on teaching candidates how to withstand 36-hours-long interrogation. The Delta operator selection process takes place twice a year and lasts 4 weeks at Camp Dawson in West Virginia. To apply, you need to be a male with high score on a military aptitude test and have at least 2.5 years left in your military service. You also must be eligible for a secret-level security clearance and have a good behavior record. The process starts with the physical tests like a 2-mile run, an inverted crawl, and a 110-yard swim while wearing full gear. After that, candidates go through land navigation courses, including an 18-mile night hike carrying a 40-pound backpack, using only a paper map and compass. The final challenge is the long walk, a 40-mile march over tough terrain.
Yeah, you get the question, why do they have to use a paper map and compass? Because sometimes technology fails. That's why I think it's important for every military personnel to learn. I saw a video of Marine Corps boot camp, and in boot camp they had the optics on. Well, you need to learn with iron sights. And I'm gonna say it here: you need to learn with iron sights, no optics, because if the optic breaks, you're gonna have to pop that bad boy off and go iron.
With a 45-pound backpack. There's also a mental part with psychological exams. It's really tough, and most candidates, about 90%, don't make it through the selection. Once SAS recruits survive the tough selection process and earn their SAS wings, they enter a training phase that never really ends. A substantial portion of their training revolves around counterterrorism, conducted at a facility known as the Killing House. Here, SAS troopers practice their close-quarter battle skills. They perfect techniques for entering rooms using stun grenades, tear gas, and breaching walls and doors. They learn landing on rooftops, getting access using ladders or explosives. The SAS are extensively trained in storming hijacked trains and aircraft. One crucial part of special ops work is sneaking into enemy territory. SAS recon teams learn to hide from the enemy for days, sitting quietly in concealed spots. During this phase, the troopers learn espionage skills as well. The SAS are trained to sneak deep into enemy territory to sabotage. In close protection course, the troops learn to protect VIPs. Delta Force training is among the toughest in the world. After making it through the selection, recruits face a 6-month operator training course, split into 6 parts. First up is marksmanship, where they start by shooting stationary targets up close, then move to moving targets, and eventually learn how to clear rooms full of enemies. Next comes demolition and breaching in the second block. They get into stuff like lockpicking, making improvised explosive devices from everyday stuff, and setting up sniper positions around buildings. In the third block, they combine all their skills from the first 2 and use them in direct action, counterterrorism, and hostage rescue operations. The fourth block is all about espionage, with CIA instructors teaching things like dead drops, quick meetings, secret signals for loading and unloading, surveillance, and how to spot someone tailing you. Block number 5 is about executive protection, where Delta operators learn how to protect VIPs. Finally, they wrap things up with a big test called Culmination Exercise, where they must put all their skills they've learned to the test. Both units have access to a wide range of firearms. They train with various military weapons from around the world, including Kalashnikovs. Having a good understanding of these weapons is crucial because they might be called upon to teach foreign troops. In emergencies, both units may need to use enemy firearms found on fallen enemies during escape and evasion missions. In false flag operations, they deliberately opt for firearms associated with another force to conceal their own identities. The primary rifle used by the SAS is the HK-53, and when things get up close, they rely on the MP5, a compact submachine gun, and Glock 17. Delta Force usually goes into action with an HK-416, M4A1 carbine, and the M249 machine gun squad automatic weapon. The Deltas are armed with MP7 submachine guns and a bunch of sniper rifles. But here's the cool part, these guns are super customized to suit each operator's style. They tweak things like the stock, grips, sights, and other parts to make them just right. Plus, they use the latest tech gadgets for info and precision strikes.
Now, I'm sure they're mentioning the technology here under Delta. I am absolutely 100% sure the SAS uses the same technology. This is just where they're mentioning it, but guarantee you, SAS has this technology as well.
At the end of the day, both Delta Force and SAS are all highly professional and capable special operations forces. Neither Delta Force nor SAS holds a clear advantage over the other. They both boast impressive histories in warfare and bring valuable expertise to the world of special operations. But we're curious, which one do you favor? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below.
Bring it back to an image there. There you go, packed up, ready to move out. Great video. Special Air Service, the SAS, the UK's primary Tier 1 group, and Delta Force from the United States Army. Which is better? I don't think there's that big of a difference now. Um, Being American, I will lean. I'll go 51% Delta and 49% SAS. But that's my bias. I'm gonna go for my boys. But like I said before, you don't want to mess with any special operations group. I don't care what country they're from, because they're going to be highly trained. They're usually highly motivated, very efficient, and you don't want to be on the other end of that, because that's going to probably be a bad day. What doesn't get mentioned a lot, and I'm going to throw this out here right now, is police. In the U.S., we have SWAT, Special Weapons and Tactics. You don't want to mess with SWAT. SAS and Delta, they don't want to mess with SWAT either, because SWAT, even though SWAT is more reactive, not quite, they're not out to kill you, they're more a reaction group. SWAT works every day. They serve high risk warrants every day, so they are in the field every day. If you go to a city like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, SWAT is right up there as far as elite groups. Obviously, they're not military; they're police, but you don't want to mess with a SWAT unit either. Uh, Anyway, if you liked what you saw, hit the like button down below. Please leave a comment, subscribe, turn on the post notifications so you don't miss a single video. This is Coach Michael 101, where we listen to music, check out movies, other miscellaneous mayhem, and hopefully we have some fun along the way. I'll see you next video.